Okay. At 6 p.m., I'd like to call the November 6th regular meeting of the Mountain View Wisman School District Board of Trustees meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and I invite the Stevenson children to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Next, we'll have a roll call.
Devin Conley,
Charles DeFazio.
Bill Lambert. Trustee Henry will be a little late, and as will Trustee Reed. So we'll let you know when they arrive. First item is to approve the agenda. Do we have any questions on the agenda? Would any of the members of the public like to speak on the agenda? And one person in the audience, is there anyone online who would like to speak? I don't see anyone online. Mr. Nelson?
Thank you. For the agenda, again, I would like to compliment the staff for getting this out many days earlier than the deadline, which is only 3 days. And much earlier than most districts or city councils do, almost twice as early as it needs to be done. So it gives everybody on the board, I know when I was on the board, I appreciate it, and everybody who is interested enough to read an agenda, time to do it. Two, I am disappointed that this is a second meeting in a row without the future facing governance calendar distributed electronically. I noticed there is, as there was in a previous meeting, a handout at the back of the room with materials. I guess it's in a it's in the same format. Okay. I can't tell whether it's different or not because I haven't had time to study it. So it doesn't have a version number or a date that it came from. And like the last one, it doesn't have, there is an electronic copy of this as a material distributed at the board meeting. So that should be corrected. I'll talk to the superintendent about that. And the last thing was as for the item now way at the very end of the meeting having to do with public comment. In 1953, Supreme Court dissenting opinion from Justice Jackson wrote on procedural due process, quote, "If it be conceded in some way, does it matter what the procedure is? Only the untaught layman or the charlatan lawyer can answer that procedure matters not. Procedural fairness and regularity are the indispensable essence of liberty. Justice Jackson was the chief American prosecutor for the Nuremberg trials. California has a procedure for public participation in governing board meetings, and I expect Board President Lampert to follow it. Thank you."
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Nelson. See no one else in public? We have a motion to approve the agenda.
I have a motion to approve the agenda, moving item 9 to follow item 5 after reconvening open session. I understand the reasoning behind the change in the placement of the public comment opportunity. I don't believe it solves the problem it's purported to address, but instead makes it harder for other members of the public to have their voice heard.
Any additional comments? So I support keeping the community comments toward the end. I realize it's a inconvenience for certain members of the public, but I do believe it gets us on the right course, helps turn around some bad habits that are going on in the district, and will be a positive thing going forward. So
Motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
We have trustee Lambert and trustee DeFazio approve the agenda as presented. Trustee Conley is a nay. Okay, we'll move to the next item, school showcase by Stevenson School.
Close enough. All right. Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm really delighted. I'm Megan Pullman, and I'm here to present the Stevenson Showcase tonight. And I've got probably way more important people with me, so I'm going to let them introduce themselves. I'll start the presentation, and then you'll hear from them at a very specific point about their own experiences with the program that I'm going to be talking about. Go ahead.
I'm Angela Hutton,
Parents
Oh.
extraordinaire.
parent of a third grader at Stevenson.
Mackenzie Cooper. I have a fifth grader and second grader who are here with me.
My name is Kyle Hillebrecht. For the past, this is the third year that I've been the instructional coach at Stevenson. And then for 8 years before that, I was a fourth and fifth grade teacher.
And to my stingrays in the audience, are you ready? Waterfall, waterfall. Okay, they're there. Excellent. So I'm really delighted, next slide, to showcase an important program at our school. I have to be honest, it was really hard to pick like which program or which facet of Stevenson to choose to highlight. There are so many wonderful things about the community and about the programs there. And so it was difficult. So I look forward, right, to talking with board members a lot more tomorrow at your visit about all of the things that are happening there that are really awesome. So we're going to talk tonight about impact, and just simply impact is a program that was collaboratively written by teachers and parents to address the concerns around social emotional learning on campus. And this was done quite a while ago. So next slide, we'll talk about the timeline. So the history of this was that in 2014 to 2019, like many other schools in the district, our school supported the use of Project Cornerstone. And in 2018, there was a teacher and parent task force that was set up to explore alternatives more connected to the Stevenson values that we've got at our school. Something to make it, again, just really more individualized for our Stevenson values. And in 2021, that task force was actually able to be even more flexible and integrate some of the better together principles and titles that were a part of that program. And they launched for the first time in 2019. Is that right, Mackenzie?
Yes.
2019, excellent. It's an incredibly robust SEL program, again, written by teachers and parents together. Really inspiring to see in the classroom. So we'll talk about the different facets of it. In 2025, though, we're also, because we've got a character strong curriculum, we're looking at the strengths of the character strong curriculum, integrating it with the wonderful parts of our impact curriculum, and still yet making sure that we're integrating all of those things together so that we've got the best SEL learning at Stevenson. So again, we had a retreat last June with parents and teachers coming together at the end of the school year to work really hard on integrating those two things together. So it really is a joy to see those two groups working really hard together to make wonderful things happen for our kids. And again, what's ongoing is just to document the synergies between the programs, making it the best we can be. Next. All right, so the program is really amazing, but it's got 4 major components, and one is the Stevenson values. So we've got 5. We've got collaboration, we've got community, we've got resilience, we've got respect, and we've got innovation. And so with those 5 values, they each come with big ideas, driving questions, and read aloud books. And all of those things get tackled every single year with every kid, but they are taught in a very developmentally appropriate way for each grade level, never repeating content, but rather building off of content. So it's a really robust, has a robust scope and sequence program, and read aloud books for each one. Go to the next slide. Perfect. This is an example. So this is collaboration, which is one of our Stevenson values in grade 1. So this is any given month, right? We would have collaboration as the value that we highlight in grade 1. And then driving questions include things like, how do I respectfully share my ideas? How can I be an active listener? How can I respect the ideas of others? How can we work together to reach a solution? And how can everyone's voice be heard? How can I try to see others' perspectives? So just in that one kind of little snippet, so many of those wonderful SEL components are coming out, taught through literature from parents with teachers to our kids. The supplemental text is maybe something beautiful. So they did a really, really nice job of putting together a list of books that were diverse from a diverse set of authors. They have really unique messages. And then furthermore, all the kids are engaged in an activity. So for this particular activity, because it was about collaboration and they read maybe something beautiful, which is about art and activism in the community, they did actually a collaborative drawing project where they all got together and they did each a piece of that art or that drawing project and then put it all up together. So they get to do an activity too that aligns with the topic. So we couldn't do this program without our parent classroom readers. And so you'll hear from them in just a minute. So we've got 1 to 2 parents, readers per classroom. And they're trained on each monthly topic. So they do dedicate their time also in the evening to learning about how to teach this topic. They deliver the reading, the discussion, and the lesson associated with the value and with the teacher support. All right, something you got to witness today. Welcome, everybody. Is a little bit of the community building activities actually came out of this program. So this program continued to grow and blossom over the years, and we've got lots of amazing people with lots of amazing ideas. Fever Fridays is what we call them. We do a monthly assembly on one of the values, and we call it a Fever Friday because the fever is a group of stingrays, which is pretty cute. So once a month, the grade level teams actually come up with a presentation. So it's not my content, it's the kids' content at the presentation. And it's pretty amazing. When I first came to the school, I think my very first assembly, I just asked, I said, what does this value mean to you? Not knowing exactly what I would get. The responses really floored me from the kids. By the time they reach 5th grade, they can really talk a lot about what each of these values means and what it means to them, which is really neat. And positive picketing, which we tried to exemplify tonight, right? Which is about spreading joy, spreading positivity, right? We know this is often a place that can get picketed, right? And so we wanted to make sure that we brought some love and joy that we have over there here to you this evening. And we also do that once a month on campus. So please come and feel free. It's usually the Fever Friday Stingray Assembly, the morning of. We've got a grade level committed to making signs, and they do positive picketing as cars are pulling up. All right, so that's you've heard enough from me. I want you to hear a little bit about the impact of our impact program from parents and teachers. So we'll start with Ms. Mackenzie Cooper.
Hi, thank you. So I've been an impact reader since 2020 and a co-lead of the program since 2021. I have poured my heart and soul into this program, and I think it is so special. And I want to tell you about a few reasons why I think it's so special. First of all, like Megan said, it's based on our school's 5 core values, which were chosen really intentionally, a decade ago or so by stakeholders at our school, the design team. And so it gives everyone at the school a common language for talking about the things that are important to us. The parents, the teachers, and the students. Like Megan said, they all really understand these core values by the time they leave Stevenson. It's also consistent. So every October, we teach them about resilience. And every January, we do community. So the teachers and the students, the staff, everyone knows what to expect month by month. It also builds month after month and year after year. And so readers know what students learned the year before. So for example, in kindergarten, one of my very favorite lessons is when we talk about innovation and resilience, we teach the kindergartners how to jump rope. It's really fun. It's very hands-on and interactive. And so then the next year in first grade, when we talk to them about innovation and resilience, we can say, remember when you learned to jump rope? You'd never done it before. And then that was your yet. And you kept trying and you figured it out. Really building on that. It's also a living curriculum. So we're always getting feedback from teachers and readers and kids and staff. And just making it the best that it can be, improving it and adapting it based on what our kids need and what our teachers need that year. My favorite part is that the lessons are really applicable, not just to like kid real life, and school real life, but also adult real life. And it's things that help like your relationships and your friendships and also like the real world as adults. Like we teach the third graders about understanding what's in and out of your control. And that's a lesson that like I as an adult work on. And I have learned a lot, both as a parent and just as a human being by being involved with this program. And I don't think I'm the only one because we have readers who come back year after year after year and do it because they love it. And it's such an impactful way to be a part of your child's education. And finally, I think that it really spotlights the deep collaboration that happens at Stevenson between the staff and the parents. And it's really like shows the beauty of Stevenson when it's at its best. And we have so many amazing programs that do that. This is just one. Okay, and then I would like Angela to the co-chair.
So my name is Angela and I have a third grader at Stevenson and I've been there. This is going on my 4th year. My daughter, so we've been there since kindergarten and and I've been involved with Impact since that first year. I learned first about Impact at the kinder play date when the kids were coming in and I hadn't even begun school yet. And I met Farah, who's another co-chair who's not here tonight because it's her birthday. And we said, okay, well, we'll take care of this for you. And she told me all about Impact. She and her older daughter were making Impact bracelets with the core values on them and selling them because the kids were doing like a little makers thing and selling their wares. And it was so cute. And my daughter was so excited to begin. And she was telling me about, the lessons and how the parents get involved and the readers. And it was so cool. And it really spoke to me because I'm a clinical social worker. And this really is part of my passion. And I really wanted to find a way to bring my skill set and my passion to the community. So I thought, oh, this is really perfect. And I was very excited. She introduced me to Mackenzie. And you can imagine my disappointment when I found out that they had filled all the reader spots for the year. And so I didn't get to be a reader. And I was like, oh, but Farah and Mackenzie had something percolating in their brain. And that was to start a new part of the Impact Collective. And it was the Impact Book Club. And so in kindergarten, they introduced the idea of like, would you like to start a parent and teacher and adult book club to be sort of a companion to the Impact program? And I said, sure, why not? Sign me up. And we've been doing that ever since. 4 times a year, we do the Impact Book Club. We invite any adult in the community who wants to be there, talk about the topics that are, parallel to the impact topics we talk about with the kids. And then the next year I got to be reader and now I'm co-chair. So my love for Impact goes on and I love watching the evolution. So thank you.
Bring it home.
Hey, I'm Kyle Brecht. This is my 11th year teaching at Stevenson, and for many of those years, Impact has been near and dear to my heart. It beyond being a tool for teaching about the core values that our school holds dear, it's also an embodiment of those values. As Mackenzie and Angela and Principal Pullman have already mentioned, it truly has been a collaboration between parents and teachers from its creation through the iteration that's being presented to students this year. It's innovative. It took a lot of what we thought was really great about Project Cornerstone and adapted it and changed it and created something that really fit the needs of our community and was more connected to our school values. It is also resilient. We adapted and transformed the things that we were doing in person with students in the classroom when we went home during the pandemic, and we turned it into an online curriculum that was still able to give kids access to these really important social emotional lessons while they were at home. And then we adapted it back again when we were able to come back in person, and we're still adapting it now as we work through new challenges. It's also really deeply based in our community. It is a creation of parents and teachers working together. And in that work, the students are always at the center, their needs and the issues that are really coming to the forefront for them. That's one of my favorite things about the curriculum. Parents and teachers talking together about the lesson that has been planned, but what tweaks can we make based on the needs of the kids in our class right now? What's happening right now that we could address? And it's also really based on a respect for the students that we have in the classroom, for the people that they are, the fullness of themselves that they bring into the classroom, and really trying to meet their needs, not just as learners, but as whole people and whole children, which is one of the key pieces of our mission and vision at Stevenson, to educate the whole child. So this is something that I think parents, teachers are really proud of, and I hope that when you're visiting, you'll be able to get a chance to see it in action and learn more.
Awesome. Thank you. And in closing, I just want to say, in this political arena, 2 days after the election, I was really excited to come talk about this because every day at Stevenson, we're not just teaching math and science and reading and all of that, right? Like we're really teaching, or we're rather creating the world that we want to see through what we do, right? And how we do things. And I think that's incredibly powerful. We're a community that comes together to solve problems. Innovation is paired with empathy. And where resilience really helps us face difficulties with courage. So really proud of this program and its people. So thanks.
Okay, so thank you very much for the presentation and for the parents coming out here, for the teachers coming out, and also for the students coming out. Would you like to take a picture with the board?
Yeah. Let's go. Yeah. I have my whole class doing sign, so if anybody doesn't have a sign, here we go. Wow, there you go. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you got her. Hey, you guys ready? Are you ready? Okay, great. So 1, 2. See you tomorrow. Thanks, kiddos. Future members here.
That was a good section. Okay, so we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, item 3, the opportunity for members of the public to address the board concerning items on the closed session agenda. Is there any member of the public in person or online who would like to speak on a closed session agenda item? I do not see anyone, so we will move to closed session at 6:24. Okay. Ready? We will reconvene open session at 7:37. I'd like to report that trustee Henry and trustee Reed joined during the closed session. And there was no reportable action taken during closed session. Move on to the consent agenda. Do any of the trustees have any questions concerning the consent agenda? I don't see any. Would any of the members of the public like to speak on the consent agenda? Any, we have one person so far in attendance. Is there anyone online who would like to speak on the consent agenda? Please raise your hand. I see no one online, so we will take the in-person speaker, Mr. Nelson.
Thank you, President Lambert. Yes, this is on item F about minutes. The secretary of the board did not record any comment, only names on public comments. And I guess my first comment was air quotes, but nothing in between it, blank, which may be one of the reasons that trustee Lambert thinks I talk about the same thing for the last 10 years, is because it just has my name and it has nothing about the comment that I put on the card. We have two trustees, Henry and DeFazio, that have given us a revision of board bylaw 9324. That's a different policy. That policy says that public comments are supposed to be recorded, not the whole long verbatim, but just like what they wrote down on the card or finished the line with their name on it, said they oppose this or they support this, or they want to give congratulations, or they want to say this should be changed. That's what's sometimes done. That's what's been done in the past. I've complained about this to past boards and past superintendents, and it comes and goes, but it is a standard board policy. There's a line in it. Your revision has that same line and it's not being done. They ask you to pull F of the secretary of the board, fix it using those cards or looking at the video, and then bring it back next meeting with it complying with your board bylaws, right? This is why we have laws. This is why we have regulation. This is why we have a board bylaws. It's meant to operate a certain way. I would like you to operate it. And Mr. DeFazio, the way you do that, if you're going to bother having a board policy at all, you request that item F come off this agenda. Hopefully Henry will second it, and you'll see what the majority of the board thinks about actually following their own bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Do we have any comments from the board? Not, do I have a motion? I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion to approve the consent agenda by trustee Lambert, a second by trustee DeFazio. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Fine.
Nay.
Trustees Conley, trustee Lambert, trustee DeFazio, and trustee Henry voted yes. Trustee Reed voted no.
President Lambert, if I may, in the past, it has been the custom of our board that if someone is going to take a nay vote, that they explain their nay vote, just for the public and for the board as well.
I do believe that as part of the meeting minutes, that the public comments are recorded, not just with the name, but with the short written note of what the comment was about, just for reference, without having to go through and review the video.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we will move on to communications. Do we have any employee organization who would like to speak? Do not see any. Would anyone like to speak for a district committee? Trustee DeFazio?
Yep, so I'll be brief on this one, but the Board Policy Committee met on October 23rd, 2025. We have the first reading later tonight, so I'll skip giving the list of policy and bylaws we discussed. But you'll be reviewing those for first reading, and then our next meeting is scheduled for December 10th, 2025.
Okay, thank you. Any other district committees? Don't see any, then move it to the superintendent.
Yes, good evening. It's been 3 weeks since we last met. Extra week in there. Just a couple of updates. As you know, we're partnering with Arenda Education to take a close look at what's working and where we can deepen our impact for the benefit of all of our students in our classrooms. And Arenda is already at work this week. They're observing classrooms, reviewing student work, and talking with staff through an interview process. They visited Crittenden, Graham, Montaloma, Landos, Vargas, and Imai. And next week, they'll be at Stevenson, Bub, Therakoff, Mistral, and Castro. We've added the element of a parent survey because we want to hear the parents' perspective of what's working at school for their students, their children, or what isn't. And we really feel that's an important part of this study. Arenda will wrap up by the end of December, giving us timely insights to support next year's budget, staffing, and program planning. This effort is all about student learning, understanding what truly moves the needle for all of our kids. I'd ask you to look at that first week back in January. I know we don't have a board meeting scheduled, but I think we're going to be needing to spend some time that week, perhaps in a study session, looking at the results of that study from Arenda. So we have some time to process it and apply it to our budget decisions moving forward. And then adding on some high fives. I was happy to join Lando's teacher Liz Perry at Santa Clara County Office of Education Teacher of the Year event last week. Each year, I think you know the county's teacher recognition celebration honors our county's finest teachers selected by their representative districts. So big congrats to Liz on this well-deserved honor. And then one other item, Priscilla Bogdanich and Eduardo Rios Pacheco, those are our two McKinney-Vento liaisons. They'll be honored on November 14 by the Mountain View Public Safety Foundation, recognizing their tireless work to meet the needs of our families who are facing housing instability. They really are champions of service to our families, so congrats to both of them. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item 8, discussion and action. The first item, A, is a discussion item, Expanded Learning Opportunities Program Update, and Director of Early Learning and After School Programming, Ms. Watan, will present.
So I'll just say Tara Watan is sick. We have some illness creeping in early in the season here. So Kathy Bauer will be presenting in her place.
Good evening, trustees. So tonight I'm here to give you an update on our MVWSD Plus or our expanded learning programs. Everything is aligned again to our strategic plan. So what is expanded learning? These are our district sponsored after school and intersession programs. So we run programs after school, we run programs during breaks, and we run programs over the summer. We are serving approximately 900 students. And we use funding from the After School Education and Safety Grant, which is the ACES grant, which runs our Beyond the Bell programs, and then money from Expanded Learning Opportunities Program, or ELOP, which is state money. So we operate Beyond the Bell, and then our ELOP programs are run through our community partner, the Y. This is our team. Erica Navarro has been our longtime supervisor who has been here with Beyond the Bell. We have Jennifer Nunez Gonzalez, who's also a supervisor, and then Betty Nunez is who our secretary. Just a few details, just looking, comparing our two programs, ACES and ELOP. We get about $469,000 a year in ACES funding, $1.9 million in ELOP. ACES money is based on attendance at eligible sites. So our ACES grant we applied for years ago. Those schools are grandfathered in. They reapply every 3 years. And then our ELOP funds are money that we get from the state after we're a tier 2 district because we have less than 55% unduplicated count. So once tier 1 districts with above 55% get their funding allocation, they split what's left with the tier 2 districts. We have 5 sites currently eligible for ACES funding, and our ELOP programs run at all of our sites. Our BTB programs priority enrollment is for our McKinney-Vento students, foster youth, and we serve students in grades 1 through 8. ELOP serves students in grades TK to 6. You can serve additional grades with ELOP if you have the funding. ACES is 180 days. ELOP is 180 days plus 30 more days of 9-hour programming over intersession or summer. For ACES to keep our grant, we have to maintain an attendance of 85% or better across the course of the year. And then for ELOP, a little bit different. There's not the same requirements, but we also have to offer care, health and safety supports like instructional aids, nursing, transportation if needed. And the ELOP program, while students, there's a requirement for BTB, for ELOP students can come and go. They can stay for 2 days or 3 days, 5 days. Whereas BTB, it's really required that you attend 5 days and that you're attending 85% of the year. And again, we're serving approximately 280 students in Beyond the Bell and 620 students in ELOP. So just a little more about Beyond the Bell. We've served students across 5 sites, Castro, Crittenden, Therakoff, Landals, and Mauna Loma. There's a collaboration with the city of Mountain View for recreation as part of the Beyond the Bell program. Priority is traditionally given to students who are underserved, specifically McKinney-Vento. We register them first. And then we actually, with ELOP funds, added a BTB-like program at Graham because they didn't have one and we wanted options at both of our middle schools. We've been partnering with the YMCA for ELOP since 2022. They also offer parent-paid programs to our families. So we serve about 550 students across sites in ELOP, but then about 600 parent-paid students across the district. This is just another recap of the details by expanded learning program, which I went over. Some program elements. We want to have safe places for kids after school hours. We provide snacks. We provide homework support, enrichment activities, outdoor play and activities, and we're working on building connections to classroom learning this year. Our programs are open till 6 p.m. Students are in school for 9 hours a day if they're taking advantage and coming for the whole day. We have some challenges with staffing and training. Most of our staff in our after-school program, they're not credentialed. They're going to be staff in college. They're juggling class schedules. We have high turnover. Sometimes classes change, class times change. We have some retired individuals that might want to remain connected and will work a few hours. We have some individuals working a second job. So we have a wide range of people in our programs, but we're not seeing credentialed staff or people that have tons of experience working with kids. So some things to consider. Looking at our budget for this year, we have been relying on our carryover for the ELOP program for the last several years. We did a slow rollout of the ELOP programs, so we were able to save some of the funding we received from the state in those early years and have used it to offset program costs. And this year we'll be able to run the program cost neutral, but we are really going to expend the majority of our carryover at the end of this year. So when we start to look ahead for 26-27, if the state continues funding levels for ELOP at the same level they are now, which is we're getting about 1.5 million, we are going to have to contribute over $1.5 million to continue ELOP running in 26-27. And as we see cost of living increases and changes, that amount will slowly rise as we go through the next several years. And so I think some things to consider, like I said, we use restricted funding sources, ACEs and ELOP, and our ACEs allocations are fairly steady. Although we did not hit our attendance target at Montaloma, so our budget there was reduced by $40,000. And our ELOP allocations have dropped. So when we first started getting ELOP funding, we were getting about $2,000 a student. Now we're down to about $1,600 a student. And I think what's difficult is that we don't know what our allocation is going to be until budget adoption. And even then, not usually until October, because the state allocates the tier 1 funding first, and we get money that's left over. So our funding source is unknown, and we can't always rely that, yes, we're going to get $1,600 every year. I think the other thing we have to remember with ELOP is that we are required to invite all unduplicated students to the program. Historically, looking back at our enrollment, we have about 60 to 65% of that group that enrolls. That could change in any given year. We could have less, we could have more, depends on the need. We're also seeing increased costs in providing health and safety support. So having instructional assistants for students who need additional support in the program, having support for students who may have medical needs in the after-school program. So we have to provide that for students just like we would during the school day. And then we used ELOP funds to expand BTB at Graham. And again, we've been operating with carryover funding, and we are out of carryover. So next steps. We just submitted applications for additional one-time funding from ACEs. It's not a lot of money, but it could offset some costs for us of things that are currently charged to ELOP, giving us a little bit more budget going into next year, but not enough to offset a $1.5 million deficit. We're looking at our ACEs program options and how we can create a program that will allow us more flexibility with enrollment across ELOP and BTB so that we make sure we're not losing any funding for students with attendance and beyond the bell. We started looking into whether or not we could charge families on a sliding scale a fee for the ELOP programs. Overall, we cannot charge a fee for a student that's considered socioeconomically disadvantaged, but you could charge a fee to a student that's an English learner. Although we only have 45 students enrolled currently that are that qualification. And if a family indicates a hardship, we would not force them to pay. So while we could possibly recover some money by charging, I'm not sure it's a lot. And I think the staff time involved in having to go through that process is going to eat up some of what we would collect. Again, this year, we're working on providing grade level themes and vocabulary that can be incorporated into the program, training and engaging students in conversations about classroom themes and vocabulary, and working on incorporating background knowledge and vocabulary building activities in our programs. That's been our big focus this year. So we're going to continue investigating revenue options. We just found out this week that the state is going to allow districts to apply for additional ACEs funding, ACEs universal funding. Typically for ACEs eligibility, you have to have a 50% or higher rate of free and reduced lunch students. But they're opening ACEs funding to any TK to 9th grade site. So we could apply for Mistral, we could apply for any of our schools in our district. We're trying to clarify if the plans that we submit have to come to you as a board for approval, because it's a very short timeline. We have to have applications done by December 3rd, postmarked, and they're quite lengthy, but we are going to work to try to apply for additional BTB funding. And so we're planning for intersession, we're planning for summer, we're continuing to hire and support the YMCA and BTB with professional development. And then we're going to have to continue to look at what our options are just based on the fact that we're out of carryover, and we're not gonna get enough money from the state to run this program cost neutral. So with that, happy to take questions.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Bauer. Any questions from the board? Trustee Conley.
Thank you, President Lambert. Thank you for the presentation, Ms. Bauer, and for stepping in for Ms. Baton when she was not able to be here. I hope she feels better soon. One of the discussions that came up in a previous board meeting when we were talking about, do we expand the day, especially for learners at Castro? What about academic intervention through Beyond the Bell and ELOP? It sounds like ELOP and Beyond the Bell are serving more perhaps as enrichment programs right now than academic intervention because of the nature of the staffing, the qualifications and the turnover. Is that fair to say?
Fair to say. I think we just providing academic intervention. We even have been working to do this after COVID as well, trying to train the staff to provide academic intervention. And you have to kind of find the sweet spot of what staff is able to do and what they can plan for, what we can support them with. I did appreciate Trustee Reed sharing with us this idea of having possible teacher leaders that want to work and check in and connect with kids in the after school program. And so I have shared that with Director Chang and Director Watan to look into, because that might be a better way if we continue with ELOP to be able to support kids more with academics in the after school program.
Thank you. I remember years ago, we talked about expanding Beyond the Bell, and the hindrance was always staffing. And it used to be teachers who were doing the Beyond the Bell after school rather than outside kind of staff members brought in.
We would, we would have staff members come into Beyond the Bell to do tutoring and support tutoring, but you always hired hourly staff
Okay.
to run the program.
Okay, so trying to get back to a place where we could be tapping staff who were amenable and highly qualified to support those after-school programs. Okay, thank you.
I just might comment on that. I think during some of my site visits, I remember one site in particular, it seemed like there were a large number of teachers actually willing to stay after school and work with the kids. So I was,
Graham is doing their homework hub,
Yeah.
which is kind of like but it's very much a rotation, but it does.
I was thinking of another school too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's good to see that some of it's going on like that at some of the schools. Any further questions?
I just ask, what's, you had mentioned the potential for additional ACES funding. What's the magnitude of those dollars?
I don't know. In fact, the email just came, so we're still exploring it, but it would be enough. I think what we would look at is enough to run. We would make a program plan to run for a certain number of students, and we would probably try to see how we could pick up students that might be in ELOP so that we could offer, if we didn't get enough ELOP funding, right, we could then offer, at least have a program at all of our sites, at least for maybe our kids that are unduplicated. I think that's what we're going to look at, but we have to explore a little bit more.
And historical context, when Castro and Mistral were split into two schools, Mistral did not have Beyond the Bell. And parents, especially our Spanish-speaking parents, came to the board for years and years and years asking for after-school programming for their students, just like Castro had with Beyond the Bell. And then ELOP finally opened up that possibility, but now it may be a bit uncertain.
Question, is there a requirement for a number of teachers or counselors or staff per student after school in these after school programs?
We look at trying not to run the classes more than like 1 to 25. So having at least one staff member, or 1 to 20, one staff member for every 20 or so kids. Yeah.
Thank you. Further questions? Are there any member of the public who would like to speak on this item? Either in person or online, please raise your hand. I do not see anyone, so we'll move on to trustee comments. Any comments from the trustees? Trustee Henry?
I was just going to follow up on the comment you made about some of the site plan visits. I noticed the same thing, that several of the sites have chosen to use some of their some TSSP money and site, and then to pay teachers to do some of these before school and after school programs. So I don't know if we get to a point where we're making decisions about not having the ELOP funding, if there would be some ways of kind of rearranging incorporating some of those teachers into the program or the ACEs. Because I agree with you. I heard from a couple of principals that they had a lot of willing people to sign up for those things that they were planning as a site that may be able to dovetail with these programs.
Any other comments? Well, thank you very much for the presentation, Ms. Bauer. Move on to next item, item B, as an action item. Resolution number 03110625 for state preschool program continued funding application. And what do I have for that, Ms.
It's me
Bauer,
again.
you're presenting?
Yes, so we, each year we have to submit a resolution to continue having our state preschool contract, our funding for state preschool. This year, that application is due on November 15th. So I'm asking that we approve the resolution so that we can continue to run state preschool. I do want to indicate that if we did decide that we wanted to look at our contract, if we wanted to make any adjustments, we can still do that. But we have to submit now or there's no chance of having the money at all. So I'm asking that you approve the resolution tonight for us.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board? Any member of the public wish to speak in this item, either in person or online, please raise your hand. I do not see anyone. Is there any comments from the board? Trustee Conley?
I make a motion to approve resolution number 03-110625 for the state preschool program continued funding application as presented.
Second.
Motion by trustee Conley and a second by trustee DeFazio that the board approve resolution number 03-110625 state preschool program continued funding application as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Next item is also an action item, resolution number 01-110625, recognizing National Native American Heritage Month. Superintendent Bauer.
Yeah, this is a resolution we're bringing forward to you this evening, recognizing the importance of honoring the achievements of our Native American community members. And I think you have the resolution in front of you, so it's there for your consideration and hopeful approval.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any questions? Is there any member of the public who wish to speak on this item? Either please raise your hand online. I don't see anyone. And if we don't have any comments from the board, we'll start off reading quarterly by trustee Conley.
We want to read it before we vote on it, or do we want to vote on it? Okay.
Let's vote on it first.
I think we usually vote on it and then we read it. I would like to make a motion that the board adopt resolution number 01-110625, recognizing National Native American Heritage Month as presented.
Second.
A motion by trustee Conley and a second by trustee DeFazio that the board approve resolution number 01-110625, recognizing National Native American Heritage Month. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, now we'll start with the choral reading. Trustee Conley.
Whereas members of the Mountain View Wisman School District Board of Education are honored to join communities across the country and recognize November 1st, 2025 as the start of National Native American Heritage Month, and
Whereas National Native American Heritage Month is an opportunity to consider and recognize the contributions of Native Americans to the history of the United States as descendants of the original indigenous inhabitants of this land, and
Whereas Native Americans have moving stories of tragedy, triumph, and perseverance that need to be shared with future generations in order to preserve Indigenous languages which have contributed to the English language. And
Whereas Native Americans have made distinct and important contributions to the United States and the rest of the world in many fields, including the fields of agriculture, environmental stewardship, wayfinding, medicine, music, dance, language, and art. And
whereas contemporary applications of traditional knowledge systems of Native Americans have expanded scientific, environmental, and intercultural understanding. And
Whereas it is important to understand the longstanding history that has brought us to reside on this land in Mountain View and to seek to understand our place within that history, acknowledging that colonialism is a current, ongoing process within which we need to build mindfulness of our participation.
Therefore, be it resolved that the Mountain View Wisman School District Board of Trustees adopts resolution number 01-110625 to encourage the celebration of National Native American Heritage Month in the schools of the district with culturally responsive activities, and to value the roles and contributions of Native American people to the local and national economies, culture, and identity.
okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item 8D. This is a discussion item, board policy updates, first reading. Trustee DeFazio?
okay, yeah, so I'm going to go through this batch of updates from Board Policy Committee. This is the meeting on October 23rd that I mentioned earlier. We make recommendations, but still folks are responsible for, as a full board, approving these policies. Many came as part of a review of regular updates from staff as they prepared to onboard with our new platform in this batch. I'll go to the next slide, please. So go through a couple different batches here. So there's these 4 here, which are bids, contracts, budgets, nutrition program compliance. Next slide. Then we have a handful of updates to our bylaws, including, I'll discuss in more detail later than that, but we can go to the next slide. So bids. So I'll give a quick highlight of just what the policy is about. Our bids policy covers how we perform competitive bidding for the lease and purchase of equipment, supplies, materials, or services. Philosophically, we're committed as a board to public accountability and ensuring the prudent use of public funds. So we attempt to explore opportunities to obtain the greatest value for our money. Part of the procedures that we delegate to the superintendent aim to generally be awarded to the lowest responsible bidder, which balances our interest in quality results and value for our money. And then in specific circumstances outlined in the policy, we may award otherwise, including things like emergencies or situations like that. Next slide, please. Similar to bidding, our contracting authority emphasizes conforming to applicable legal standards, avoiding conflicts of interest, and again, consists with our philosophy and good governance. Some contracts have different requirements, for example, data security and privacy requirements for some student-related electronic products and services, and then non-nutritious foods that are advertised or contracted out. Next slide. Budget is actually a new policy for us here, although we perform many of the legally required items in this. Specifically, this is about our process for budget adoption. We're aligning our budget with our goals. What's a little different from existing practices is that this policy will have us perform an annual establishment of budget priorities, allowing us to provide that input to the budget development process. As people remember, we hold our public hearings for our proposed budget, LCAP, and LCFF overview at the same meetings. We make sure that the budgets follow standardized accounting code structure, SACs, as you've heard mentioned many times, and follow requirements for fund balance classification, among other things, but these are the high-level bits. Next slide, please. Nutrition program compliance. So this is a bit of a significant refresh here. Basically, the most important, I think we last updated this in 2010, but the most important high-level features are designation of a compliance coordinator, which is responsible for much of the duties of compliance with federal and state non-discrimination laws. And this policy is required for districts receiving state or federal funding for programs like National School Lunch Program. Next slide, please. Bylaws refresh. So we had as you saw earlier, we had a big batch of bylaws that showed up there. Some of them were quite old, So we refreshed a lot of them. Major highlights for us included clarifications around resignation process and the steps necessary to do so. And we cleaned up our non-exhaustive list of meeting actions by the board and the associated exhibit with it. Next slide, please. And then last, so rather than adding new policies, we rescinded a handful of them, or not necessarily a handful, more than a handful, I would say in this case. No longer needed as their language was, in some cases, in this case, incorporated into administrative regulations. Next slide. They also found stale policies that were either no longer part of suggested policies by CSBA or moved into other policies. So these are these ones that we are rescinding for those reasons. And then the final slide, code of ethics, which was not wanted to highlight here. We're not getting rid of our ethics obligations. We are still committed. But this again was covered by many of our other bylaws, including like our members, board development, conflict of interest code, code of conduct. And then according to AB 2158, we're all obligated to take our ethics training. So I think the public can rest easy that we still are committed to ethical governance, even though we're removing this bylaw. All right, that's it. Any questions?
Trustee Conley?
Thank you. Thank you to the committee for all of the time that goes into this work. And I know that staff meets with you as well. I still believe that this should be a staff presentation rather than a trustee presentation, but I've talked about that before. The presentation itself is not in the agenda packet. And I wanted to ask if it's possible to make sure that the presentations are always included in our agenda packets ahead of time.
Certainly. My apologies. I'll make sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, any member of the public wish to speak on this item? I have one in person. Anyone online, please raise your hand. I do not see anyone online, so you may go ahead, Mr. Nelson.
Thank you. Trustee DeFazio, I hope if you talk the talk, you walk the walk. This item that I brought up earlier, Board Policy 9324, you left the language in there that says you really want the minutes to contain the comments that Anna Reed voted no on approving that consent because of that. So why not take out that? If you're not going to enforce that language, take it out. And here's why I'd recommend you not take it out. There was a person that made a comment at a board meeting. It was a number of years ago, so far away that we'd like to forget about it, the Bolus Charter issue that came up. And there was like 20 people who commented there. And most of the ones who wrote something down, it was recorded. And guess what? There was a person, maybe it was your clone, called Lisa Henry, who came up and made a comment. And the comment was recorded. And it's just something very short. I don't even know if it took the rest of the line that said something that the charter should be held to strict metrics starting the second year. Lisa Henry, if it's the same one, had her comment recorded in the minutes. You can find those. It's there for posterity because there's no limits on how long you keep minutes, official government recording. So we have Lisa's comment from 5 years ago, 7 years ago, I don't know what it was, but it's there. And it isn't a quote, it's just, you have an idea what her opinion on that was. I don't know whether she thought it was a good idea or not, because at one time we thought they're going to be here no matter what. But she definitely wanted to have metrics, and she wanted the board, if they were approved, to hold them to strong recording of the metrics in the second year. So that's the reason you too could have joined with Anna Reed and asked the superintendent to fill in those blanks on just the last minutes. Now, if you give us a policy now that you're not going to ask the superintendent to do, why the heck bother? Take it out. You can just cross out that line. If you don't think it should be recorded anymore, I urge you to cross that line out. If you're going to talk the talk, Charles, I would like you to walk the walk, which means sometimes voting no, or sometime asking something to be redone by your staff. You are the guys that set the policy, but if you don't enforce the policy, it means nothing.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Any comments from the trustees?
I want to thank trustee DeFazio for the breakdown. I like the chunking of things. It helps keep things organized in my brain, especially when there's quite a few to go over. It helps to keep track of all the updates. So thank you.
Any further comments? I will move on to the next item. Item E, it's an action item. Vendor list. It will be presented by Ms. Westover.
Good evening, trustees. So this is an updated vendor list. So last year we had a vendor list produced based on vendors that are used within the district frequently, that it's beneficial for us to continue work with these vendors. We have added a few. So one of the requests from the trustees was that we revisit this vendor list about once a year or more as needed. So this is us coming back to you to revisit it. We checked with all of our departments to see what else would be helpful, and you'll notice what is listed in red are the ones that we are updating. Any questions?
I have trustee, go ahead, trustee Conway.
Trustee DeFazio also. I had a question. Could you talk a little bit about Follett, please?
I might turn that over to Kathy.
Follett is the company that provides our catalog for all of our libraries. And currently we're contracted with them for the cataloging system, but we're also using them to support at our middle schools coming in and weeding and cleaning up all of our catalogs. It's a project that we're working on this year to get our catalogs really organized and ready to go. And then we have our library tax learning so that then we can do this at all the libraries in the upcoming years.
Thank you.
Trustee DeFazio.
Yeah, maybe you can, do we have a process by which we will roll some of these off as they're kind of getting older or maybe unused, or what does that look like generally at them?
Yeah, I think so. What we did for this year is actually went through and pulled, if we had POs with them this past year, all of these are fairly active. When I send the note out to the departments, I'll put little notes in, is this still needed? Or we spent this much on this vendor last year. Is this still? So it's already kind of part of our process. But yes, I anticipate some will start to roll off as we're no longer using them.
Thank you.
It's a minor thing. I see the CHAC council is here. Are we doing anything with CHAC anymore? I don't see.
We don't have anything currently with CHAC.
Yeah, I mean, they're basically dissolved, right?
Happy to
Yeah.
pull them off. I think this was one just maybe part of the negotiations last year.
As they're winding down, yeah.
Yep.
Any further questions? Is there any member of the public who would like to speak in this item? Anyone online, please raise your hand. I do not see anyone, therefore we'll move on to comments from the trustees. Any trustee wishing to make any comments? Or this is a action item. We have a motion.
I just had a comment, which is kind of reminding the public that when we were updating a lot of our processes over the last year, the vendor list was a way to both have more oversight regarding the vendors that we're using, but also to streamline the process for staff so that it wasn't too cumbersome. And this has kind of been our compromise, if you will, in doing that.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
I move to approve the updated vendor list with the deletion of the check council.
Second.
Motion by trustee Henry and a second by trustee Reed that the Board of Trustees approve the updated vendor list with check removed from the list. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Move on to item F, discussion item, inventory process. And I believe Dr. Westover will be presenting.
All right, good evening. This evening, I have John Aker, who is our Director of Technology, who will also be co-presenting with me because this kind of crosses into both of our worlds to talk about what our inventory process is within the district. Of course, everything we do connects back to our strategic plan, making sure that we have facilities and resources to equitably serve all of our students. A little bit of background on what our inventory process looks like. So everything starts with our PO. So the board is very familiar with all our POs because every time we have a board meeting, you get a list of POs and POCOs to see every dollar that's spent within the district. When we enter a purchase order, it has that SACS code that we've talked about that identifies what it is and we're purchasing, what it's for, what its function is. As part of the SACS coding, it also says if it is if we need to tag it for inventory. So if we need to tag it, it triggers and says, hey, we need to tag this for inventory. So it follows two different routes. If it is a school site or child nutrition, MOT, ed services, once it hits our system, we take the tags, our asset inventory also happens to be our bond accountant. It sits on her desk. She sends out the inventory tag to the site and says, please stick this on the item when you receive it. Then we input all of that information into QCC, into our asset modules. So QCC is the financial system that the county uses to do all of our purchasing and track inventory. Additionally, we add the item, if it's over $5,000, to a capital asset schedule. So all of this is done in our financial system. If it's a tech item, it follows a slightly different process. So again, it's triggered by the PO and the coding. Then we send that list gets sent over to John. So he has a long list because we have many items in technology that are over that 500 mark. He tags them after when they're ready to be sent out, and then he sends those tag numbers back to us, and then we input them into QCC. This is what an asset tag looks like. So you might see these on various different items across the district. Sometimes if it's not possible to put an asset tag on it, we have another way of identifying it. And this is what a QCC payment file looks like. So this is what triggers, and then we say, okay, it has this particular coding. This is triggering us to put an asset tag on it. As you'll see, it lists off, what it is that we're purchasing, how much each item is. This is what the fixed asset module looks like in QCC. So it takes that information that was on the payment file and then puts it into QCC. This tells us the unit cost, what it is that we are tracking. And then I'll turn it over to John to talk about technology tracking.
Yeah, so for technology, we track everything in ServiceNow. Everything, including fixed assets, and then stuff under $500. But we track a lot more data than what is required for fixed assets, which is why we have it in ServiceNow. And the other benefit of being in ServiceNow is we have it update like every hour. Our MDM updates data in ServiceNow based on like where the computer is, like what IP address it's connecting from, when it last connected, who's using it, what software is on it, and then if the item is a fixed asset, we also track the asset tag number and the purchase order number. If you go to the next slide, this is an example of our record in ServiceNow for this is an older MacBook Air that's not in service anymore. But in the top right corner, you can see like the asset tag, and then just below that is a checkbox for us to know that it's an item that we need to export back into the QCC system. And then we have the PO number, and that refers to within the PO number record, there's additional like unit cost and other information that is needed for fixed assets. And if you look at the bottom left, that's sort of the information that we get updated all the time is the last time it connected and what access point it connected from the last time it was online. I think the next slide is yeah. So like if an item is lost, typically this would be likely to happen like at the end of the school year when people are leaving the district or the changing sites. So if it's a teacher or staff member is returning the next year, we let them check out their computer. There's a form in ServiceNow that they can pick their computer that's assigned to them and agree that they're going to keep it over the summer and they're responsible for its use for it over the summer. And then if the laptop hasn't been checked out because the teacher's not returning, then they or their contractor, then they turn it into the office and then my staff picks it up from the sites the following week after the last day of school. And then we check to make sure that all the staff that we know is leaving have returned their devices. If they haven't returned it, then we have the site contact the staff member to get it back to us.
So attached to the board agenda is an inventory that reflects current equipment at all school sites. Gaps have occurred when sites have discarded equipment such as bookcases and picnic benches when they were broken without following the surplus discard process. But this does not involve technology items. I think from John's presentation, technology goes above and beyond in that John's system is automatically checking where these items are almost on a daily basis because of their connecting to our system. Our inventory at our school sites has now been reconciled to ensure accuracy, and a standardized discard process will be reinforced to prevent future discrepancies. So attached to the discussion item today are also a list of items that we will bring back to you for discard. Again, these are things like picnic benches, some older refrigerators, some items back to I think 2006. So what's working with our process right now? We add asset tags as soon as items are purchased and coded. So when we purchase an item, it's automatically flagged in our system for it to have that tag added. Technology tracking process is working very well. Multiple points where we are able to see where our items are, and also using QCC for tracking inventory. So it's automatic. Once it hits our door, if we're buying it, we're tagging it. Items that can be improved, items such as picnic benches wear out or break and are discarded by the site without going through the disposal process. We can reinforce this discard process with sites and also with maintenance, especially with our custodians. Hey, if you're going to be throwing out a bench, let us know, take some photos, give us that tag number so we can go through the discard process. We can also, every 3 years or fewer years, if the board wishes, we can hire a sub-custodian to inventory all sites for physical items outside of technology to ensure that our lists are always up to date. And then we wanted to open it up for questions.
Trustee Henry?
Before this current inventory, when was the last time a physical inventory was done of the non-technology assets?
So for the non-technology assets, I would be guessing. So when I'm looking at the list of when the assets were last checked, I'm going to assume it was at least 15 years.
And then you've suggested in the presentation a 3-year cycle for inventory. I was wondering kind of where that came from. I was looking at, for example, the AR 3430 from Los Altos and Palo Alto, and they have, I think, a 2-year cycle. Just wondering where the 3 years came from.
I think it was trying to balance the cost because takes a sub-custodian. This time it took us 2 sub-custodians about a week and a half to go through. And then, so it was trying to balance and then looking at, sometimes I think of the dollar value. So our high dollar value items are typically our tech items. If there is a bench or a bookcase that goes missing, normally a principal or a teacher is going to report that a bench has taken off over the weekend. The things that are being removed is because they're typically broken, not because they're being stolen. But I think doing it more often is also acceptable and a good practice if that's the direction the board wishes to go.
So I didn't see, maybe I missed it, vehicles on the list. Are they somehow not included in the inventory? Buses and things like that.
That is a very good question, Trustee Lambert. We have all of our buses, we have all of our vehicles.
You know where they are?
We know where they are. Those have not taken off. We would definitely know. Let me go back and look into QCC, and because what we literally do is we do a poll. We have used QCC for a very long time, so let me look into that.
Okay, this is more like a question, comment. I believe during the summer, the threshold from like $500 to $1,500 was increased
That's correct.
inventory. So
It will
Get
be
to
go
adjust.
into effect this June.
I get it. Thank you
Yes.
for the clarification.
I was wondering how often classroom inventory was done, if that's done on a yearly basis by classroom teachers to inventory tables, chairs, and other equipment that they have in their classroom.
So we typically don't inventory the classrooms every year. So there are items that are under that threshold limit, but we do have a standard for every classroom. So every classroom should have, depending on the grade level, a carpet, a horseshoe table. Classroom furniture also tends to move a lot during the year. Teachers trade items because one wants a desk for working with students, things like that. But we do have a classroom standard. So if a teacher, like a new teacher comes into a classroom and the previous teacher, because every teacher has a different feel for how they want to teach their students and what they need, we do have a standard that will come out and make sure that they have all the standard items.
And is there like a checkout form for them to make sure that the items that they have acquired through the year or just that standard list of items that it's somewhere?
Yeah, every school site has a different checkout form that they use. Like for most often it's, turn in your keys, make sure you've checked out your tech if you want to keep your tech. When it comes to actual chairs, we don't ask the teachers to count their chairs. I think part of this maybe is just a philosophical idea that if a teacher needs a chair, we'll give them a chair. If they need to give a chair to another teacher because they want to do small group in the back, we tend not to police that so much.
$500 is also right.
That's true.
It's below the threshold. Right? Trustee Henry?
I think that thinking about the threshold probably answered my question. I'll ask anyway. I was curious about the things that come from different funding sources. Just think about the classroom things, which I think would be probably below this threshold, so they're not actually applicable. But the things that are about, acquired through site funds, things are acquired from PTA funds versus something that a teacher buys themselves, or is like a donor's choose or something like that. I guess as I'm saying this out loud and asking the question, most of those things I think would be under the threshold other than, I'm thinking of like some science tables that were purchased by the Bub PTA or something like that, but no, those aren't going to go anywhere because they're big and heavy. And so I think I've talked myself out of a question. But, okay.
Any further questions from the board? Thank you very much for your presentation. Any member of the public wish to speak in this item? I have one in-person speaker. Is there anyone online who would like to speak? Please raise your hand. You're not seeing anyone online, so you may go ahead, Mr. Nelson.
Thank you. I want to laud the chief business officer for this. I've never seen it in a dozen years. So I don't know if this is superintendent's influence is saying, why don't we do an inventory and show it? And it actually is a statutory requirement for the computer stuff because there was issues somewhere, I think here in the peninsula where a bunch of routers disappeared and all of a sudden they realized that's $10,000 worth of routers and the legislature got really mad and changed the law. But it's an excellent job. I've always complimented John on the work that he's done here in the district, and we have a great support system and keeping track of where the tens of thousands of dollars of equipment that we buy every year, where it is. And it's like, it's cool stuff. It monitors itself. It's like, so this is I wasn't planning to come up here and laud it, but this is something that you guys should appreciate. Hasn't been done before. New superintendent is suggesting it gets done. You get it. Public can see what it is. It gives us more confidence in spending our money or giving our money for things like special taxes to you.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Any further comments from the board? Trustee Fazio?
Yeah, I think piggybacking on Trustee Henry's comment about the AR, I think there might be a handful of policies we can refer to the policy committee for inventories and assets and things like that. So I think it'd be good to, I think, once I get the CSBA sample policy access, I can do it myself, but I think I'll.
Well, there isn't a policy, there's only an administrative
Yeah, but I think,
regulation.
yeah, I think we have some other ones that are potentially related that we don't have, like management of district assets and accounts that are just agendized for the next policy committee meeting.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments? Okay, we will move on to item G. Resolution 02-110625 in support of recognizing United Against Hate Week. Superintendent Bear?
Yes, much like other school districts and counties across the state of California, Mount View Wisman is going to recognize the second week of November. That's November 10 to 14 as Better Together presents United Against Hate Week. This resolution would be a statement from the board, their support of the work we're doing in each of our schools.
Thank you. Any questions from the trustees? Any member of the public wish to speak on this item? I do not see anyone in person or online. Any comments or a motion from the board?
I make a motion to approve resolution number 02-110625 in support of recognizing United Against Hate Week as presented.
I'll second.
I have a motion by trustee Conley and a second by trustee Henry that the board approve resolution 02-110625 in support of recognizing United Against Hate Week. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Have a choral reading. We'll start with trustee Reed.
Whereas members of the Mountain View Wisman School District Board of Education are honored to join communities across the state and recognize United Against Hate Week in Mountain View Wisman School District. And
Whereas Mountain View Wisman School District stands for diversity, inclusivity, and respect for all, irrespective of race, ethnicity, religion, gender, sexual orientation, disability, or any characteristic.
Whereas we reject hate, discrimination, and violence, aiming for a prejudice-free community.
Whereas we collectively promote acceptance, respect, and tolerance, and unity, enabling residents to live, work, and thrive without fear.
Whereas united, we strengthen and celebrate our city's rich tapestry of cultures and perspectives, and
whereas
The
United Against Hate campaigns embody our collective commitment to foster an environment where every community member can live, work, and flourish without fear of hatred. And
Whereas by joining with our fellow California cities and districts, we send a resounding message that we are united in our resolve to combat hate and promote acceptance. And
Therefore, be it resolved that during United Against Hate Week, we reaffirm our commitment to the following principles. 1, we denounce hate, discrimination, and violence in all forms. 2, we pledge to stand up against hate and support victims of hate incidents. 3, we encourage open dialogue and respectful conversations to bridge divides and promote understanding. 4, we celebrate the richness of our diverse community and the strength it brings to our city. We commit to working together in partnership with other California cities to create a safe and welcoming environment for all.
Therefore, be it further resolved that during this week, our district will engage all students in activities and programming that operationalize these commitments.
therefore be it resolved that the Mountain View Wisman School District Board of Trustees adopts resolution number 02-110625 to encourage the recognition of United Against Hate Week in the schools of the district, November 10th through 14th, 2025, with relevant activities that promote inclusivity and belonging and denounce hate in all forms.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item H and action. This is an action item, and I've asked Superintendent Bear to introduce this item and the next, I think 5 items total. but we'll handle each item separately. But just one introduction.
Yeah, just an overview. So the final pieces of our partnership with Foothill De Anza Community College District are coming together. On this agenda, you'll be asked to consider approval of 5 remaining staff housing documents and procedures. There is an update to the bylaws of the housing board, which will include Foothill De Anza Community College District as a member of that board. There's also a resolution establishing prioritization of units at the building for the remaining units that exist for Mountain View Wisdom School Districts. That'll be between 20 and 25 units. So that resolution will create a prioritization that we have discussed previously. There's also an action that will terminate the rental concessions. If you recall, back in April, in order to lease up that building, we offered concessions of 2 months rent. We want to cease that effective immediately, since a part of the actions that we anticipate the housing board taking is to lower those rents. There is an amendment to the management agreement with Wynn Residential, who is the organization that actually manages that building. We're going to move it from being engaging with this board to engaging with the housing board. And then finally, there's approval of the BMR agreement with the city of Mountain View that made some adjustments to include Foothill De Anza as a partner within that, since the city of Mountain View oversees the BMR units within the city. As you recall, our actions this summer, purchasing the land under the staff housing, ending that costly land lease payment, and entering into an agreement to sell 50 units with Foothill De Anza Community College District. This paved the way for the very, very real possibility of lower rents next year for our employees. Lower rents open access to even more of our educators and school staff members. The nonprofit MVW Residents Corporation Board is now in place. As you know, Charles is on that board and have had their first meeting. The transition from our district to a nonprofit was important to ensure staff and trustees can stay focused on what matters most, and that's delivering an exceptional educational experience for all students in Mountain View Wisman. So going forward, trustees will receive an annual budget presentation from the staff housing board. And so I'm pleased to report that these final milestones are almost complete. I'm really proud of the work that we've done. Big thank you to Dr. Westover for the work she's done in this. It has been an arduous process starting back in February when I got on board. I know you were working on it before then, but we really pushed forward to this solution. So we're really looking forward to a really bright and really stable future for that staff housing project. So we anticipate that escrow will close with Foothill De Anza Community College District by the end of next week, and that will complete this rather lengthy transition process.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent Mayor. Okay, let's take the first item, item H. Is approval of the first amended bylaws of MVW Residences Corporation. We have any questions from the board? Or any member of the public who wishes to speak in this item? I don't see any. Any comments from the board on motion? Trustee Conley?
I'm happy to make a motion, but first I'd like to just share that the board has discussed some of these items extensively in closed session for a very long period of time, which is why there's probably not going to be a lot of questions or discussion tonight. I make a motion that the board approve the first amended bylaws of the MVW Residences Corporation as presented.
Second.
A motion by trustee Conley and a second by trustee DeFazio that the Board of Trustees approve the first amended bylaws of MVW Residences Corporation as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. And thank you for your introductory comments, trustee Conley. Move on to item I, resolution number 04110625, establishing prioritization of units at MVW residences. Any questions? Any member of the public wish to speak on this item? Don't see anyone. Back to the board. Any comments or a motion? Trustee Conley?
I make a motion that the board adopt resolution number 04-110625, establishing prioritization of units at the MVW residences as presented.
Second?
A motion by trustee Conley and a second by trustee Reed that the Board of Trustees adopt resolution number 04-110625, establishing prioritization of units at MVW residences. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Move on to item J, staff housing, termination rental of concessions. Any questions from the board? Any member of the public wish to speak on this item? Don't see anyone. Move back to the board for comments or motion.
I'm happy to let others make motions, so I'm excited to get this done. Would you like to?
Sure.
Trustee Reed?
I'd like to move to approve staff housing, termination of rental concessions.
Second.
Yeah, motion by trustee Reed, a second by trustee Conley that the Board of Trustees terminate the current rental concessions provided to MVW at the Sevens residences effective 5 p.m. November 15th, 2025. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously. Move on to item K, approval of amendment number 1 to the management agreement between Wynn Residential California LP and the district. Any questions from the board? Any member of the public wish to speak on this item? I do not see anyone. Bring it back to the board for comments or a motion.
I move, sorry, another one on the rental. Okay, thank you. I move to approve amendment number 1 to the management agreement between Wynn Residential California LP and the district.
Second?
A motion by trustee Henry and a second by trustee Reed that the Board of Trustees approve amendment number 1 to the management agreement. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Okay, last one on this topic. Approval of amendment number 2 to the agreement by and among the City of Mountain View owner LLC and the district regarding affordable rental housing units at 777 West Middlefield Road. Any questions from the board? Any member of the public like to speak on this topic? Don't see anyone. And back to the board for a motion. Okay.
I make a motion to approve amendment number 2 to the agreement by and among the City of Mountain View owner LLC, and the district regarding affordable rental housing units at 777 West Middlefield Road as presented.
I'll second.
Motion by trustee Conley and a second by trustee Henry that the Board of Trustees approve amendment 2 of the BMR agreement in accordance with and to satisfy the parties' conditions precedent to set forth in the PSA. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes unanimously. Well, congratulations to us for for doing that. Okay. I will move on to item 9, community comments. This is the time reserved for community members to address the board on items that are not on the agenda. The board and administration welcome this opportunity to listen. However, in compliance with the Brown Act, the board is not permitted to take action on non-agenda items. Is there any member of the public wishing to speak? And anyone who wishes to speak online, please raise your hand. Okay, see one person in the audience who would like to speak and one person online. Before you get Mr. Nelson, please, I don't think we received a card for this item. Okay, it didn't get passed down. Thank you. You may begin.
And if this bores you, President Dr. William Lambert, Esquire, you can hand it over to the Vice President. Yeah, this is representing what the 8th grade ELA looked like. This is actually last year's. not 2025, what the percentage meeting standard was. 100% is about up here. Asians are getting somewhere in the 90 percentiles now. Whites are somewhere in the 80s. And you can see Hispanics are fairly much lower. The breadth represents what the percentage of the number of students are in our 8th grade. What I wanted to talk to you about, and I'll leave Dr. Lambert out of this because he doesn't want to listen to what I have to say, is this represents a delta of about 58%. Okay, 10 years ago, the delta in the same category, 8th ELA, those are graduating from our district after oftentimes a whole 8 or 9 years in our district. 10 years ago, the delta was only 44%. In other words, there's been a big drop in a big increase in this gap in the last 10 years for this very same situation of students who are, this is related to the SED because we know America isn't a post-racial society and Mountain View certainly is not. So when William says he's not going to listen or you guys aren't listening, that's fine. You know, I'll keep on bringing this up as long as I can. I may be wheeling a wheelchair in here, but I'll stop making these comments when it gets to be the point that our delta for the SEDs is no bigger than the average academic achievement gap in the state of California. I'm not asking for this district to do anything better than what the average is in the state of California is for the academic achievement gap. We're much worse than that. So you're going to hear me maybe month after month, and certainly year after year, until the actual results of what you're doing and how you're applying resources starts making a difference. You know, I've been sending you things on how Sanger and particularly Cupertino is doing. Cupertino is a good example district for you to look at how well they do in the Silicon Valley area. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Next speaker will be online, Ms. Liu.
Hi, thank you for taking my comment. Recently I was told that, our district does do open houses, but I noticed that when I go to Mount View Wishman School District, that information is not front and center. And as we're approaching, enrollment for the next school year, I'm hoping that the district can do something where you have to think of them in the mindset of if enrollment is down, and we need families to come back, the first thing they do, they go into Mount View Wishman School District website. And then they'll, it should something where it should take them straight to new family. And then if there's a link for that, then there should be something about letting them know like open house is here. And because that's what I'm seeing when I'm looking at Union School District. Pretty straightforward. And then I follow the trail and it will give all the information about what new family need to do, what kind of paperwork. And so I'm hoping to see that change in our district. And then also listening to the meeting earlier, at the start of the meeting, I was disappointed that to see that the vote for moving the non-standardized item toward the end of the meeting, and without trustee Lee and trustee Henry there. So that was odd with just 3 people present. And so thank you, trustee Conley, for voting no on that, because I don't think that's fair for the board to change the way that's been operated just because of one person. So I do hope that you move back to the way it was. That is my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Liu. Okay, we'll move on to item 10, board updates. Does anyone have a update they'd like to share? Trustee Conley?
We're coming close to the November 15th symposium on supporting our students without stable housing that's being put on by the Santa Clara County School Boards Association. I'm one of the co-organizers of that symposium, but I hope you all have, if you're able to attend, it's from 9 to 12 on the morning of November 15th at the Santa Clara County Office of Education. The registration fee is $10, but if somebody has a hardship, we're happy to waive it. There's a continental breakfast at 8:30, but we have an excellent panel of speakers. And I just wanted to highlight our own McKinney-Vento coordinator and district community engagement facilitator, Priscilla Bogdanic, will be on one of the panels, but we have Dr. David Tostin Sr., the county superintendent, is going to speak. Pamela Campos, the San Jose City Council member for District 2. Joanne Vars, Ted Lempert, and Hillary Armstrong are going to be on our first panel. And Joanne Vars is the director of foster and homeless youth education services for the County Office of Ed. Incredible data that she can present. Ted Lempert, if you haven't seen him present before, he's the president of Children Now. So he's got a great handle on all of the data that's out there. Hillary Armstrong is the deputy director of the Santa Clara County Office of Supportive Housing. So she can really speak to what we're seeing in housing policy. They're the first panel, they're at 9:20. The second panel is going to be, that first panel is called The Big Picture, and it's looking at data across the county. The second panel is called Through the Lens, and it's looking at direct services and engagement with students and families. So that's the panel that Ms. Bogdanic is on. We also have Nicole Stewart, who is the McKinney-Vento and Foster Youth Liaison for Milpitas Unified School District, but she's also the president of the board of directors for the National Association for the Education of Homeless Children and Youth. And then Karina Magaña, who is the education manager for Amigas de Guadalupe. And then our last panel is Focusing Forward. It's a case study looking at what Morgan Hill Unified School District has been doing to support their students without stable housing. So we have 3 of their staff members, and that panel will be facilitated by one of their trustees. And then we close out, we're going to try and get everyone to make commitments within their district, their city council, their community, be it nonprofits, what have you, to continue to collaborate and support each other in trying to support our students who do not have stable housing.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Conley. Any other board updates? Trustee DeFazio?
As mentioned earlier, we had our first meeting of the Nonprofit Housing Corporation, which I attended. So I'm glad I got to allow all of you to motion on all of the remaining housing things. I'll have my hands full going forward. Our next meeting is next week, but this will be the last we hear aside from the annual update. So I wanted to send us off with that.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Reed?
Parcel tax oversight and the bond oversight committee now meeting in person, which is nice to see everybody's faces. There was a community member that made a comment at the parcel tax committee that had a great suggestion on handwritten notes to people who have asked for an exemption on that parcel tax, seeing if they're willing to rescind their exemption or just make a one-time donation as a future source of revenue. And I thought that was such a great personal touch and nice idea to kind of try to bring in a different way to bring in revenue that hasn't been thought about or discussed before. So I appreciated that, Mr. Nelson.
And I can say I attended the Budget Advisory Task Force and the PTA President's meeting and Los Altos, Mountain View. I don't know what you call that group, but anyway. Trustee Conley?
I'll add I also joined the Los Altos Mountain View PTA Council meeting, which is the PTA presidents from Los Altos, Mountain View, and the high school district as well, who meet on a regular basis. And I attended the district advisory committee and the DLAC committee. And I didn't give committee updates on those earlier, but the district advisory one was a budget presentation and a budget discussion, which I think we talked about previously. And DLAC has done training around what ELACs do and started to talk about budget, I believe, as well.
Okay, thank you. So move on to item 11, items for future agendas. Anyone have any suggestions for future agenda items? Trustee Conley?
I wanted to ask if we could discuss the Coast to Coast CSBA event is now open for registration and it's cheaper to register early. So if we could talk about, do we want to send a contingent to Coast and look at the costs as well? I'm interested in going. I don't pay a fee for the annual education conference for CSBA because I'm on the board and all of you have to pay a fee to be there. And so maybe this is where I put my fee, but I think we just need to have a bigger budget conversation.
Okay, thank you. Any other suggestions? I'm saying, move on to item 12, future board, okay. Okay, I see a public comment. Please fill out an agenda item, a card. Mr. Nelson?
Thank you. I wanted to mention something that I sent to two people on the, I guess it should have been the budget committee. The law has now changed, so this $350 per month maximum that would apply to this size elementary district has been increased. I don't know if it is January, up to $1,200. I think it's appropriate that if it was Chris Chang, he'd probably say, well, 350 is more than we should get. But anyway, knowing people that spend time on all these committees and study all this stuff and spend this time, I think it's reasonable for you guys to talk about increasing this as soon as possible that you can do it. One of the things that ends up happening if you don't get it done early and leave it, they only allow you to increase it by 5% in a year. So you're going to cut what future boards can get if you don't start on it right away. And I think you guys earn it. I think you guys should go ahead and do it. You could, if there's a big uproar in the community and you end up having to have your budget is crazy cut, you can cut your own, how much stipends or whatever you want to call it. But I think it's reasonable to go up to the 1,200 limit. And I think it's the policy committee that I sent a note to about that. There's some stipulations you can say if you don't show up, one of the meetings you only get half. Bye.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Nelson. Could you please send a written request for that agenda item to the superintendent? Okay. Thank you. Future board meeting dates. Next meeting is November 20th. And we have final meeting of the year, December 18th. 2 meetings in January, and the Superintendent Bear sort of asked us to keep our eyes open to schedule a date the first week in January. Any further comments or questions? If not, I will adjourn the meeting at 9:05.